recently turned 29 and it feels like almost every friend I talk to who's a similar age is in some form of life and career crisis. I myself have had a career crisis brewing probably for years now, but I'm only properly realizing that now, sort of after the fact. Not that I'm through this career crisis in any way, I'm just in a more self-aware, more senior stage of crisis. So now I can look back and say, yep, career crisis o'clock started a long time ago. And I've decided to make it my mission to figure this crisis thing out. And as an engineer, I know that to solve a problem, you have to fully understand the problem first. So today we're getting down to the root cause of why we feel so lost in our 20s and maybe even our 30s. I mean, I hope not, but probably also our 30s. Let's be realistic here. So I did some research, I did some thinking, I tapped into my own feelings of meaninglessness and despair, and I channeled my inner consultant to Frankenstein the ultimate explanation, a model which I'm going to call the 6 pillars of doom because I like to keep things fun and light. Obviously, this screams for an ancient Greek temple to visualize. And this is going to finally explain why we feel so freaking lost during this stage of our lives. Are you ready? Let's start with the foundation that's enabling all this doom and gloom. And that foundation is Quarterlife. It's literally just the stage of life we're in, early adulthood. That's literally all it takes for a solid crisis. Now, the term Quarterlife was coined by Satya Doyle Byock, who wrote a book with that same title. I read that book this week and then came up with the idea for this video. So this book is absolutely the backbone of this video and you should read it. What are you doing? Go read it. Okay, well, maybe finish this video first though. According to Satya, Quarterlife starts somewhere around age 16 to 20 and lasts until somewhere between age 36 and 40. So I am now in prime time Quarterlife, which explains a lot. I love having a term to describe our life stage because it takes these feelings of crisis and this sense of being lost from an individual experience to a common one. If these feelings are a common and natural part of this life stage, then maybe there's a way through this and maybe I don't have to go this way alone. And maybe it's not all bad. So now that we've figured out the foundation, let's take a look at the pillars that are holding up this regretful but resilient roof. The first pillar of doom I'm gonna call a lot is happening. There are a lot of outside changes happening during this time of life that we don't have much control over. We leave high school and make our very first career decision, although this decision is often heavily guided by others, which I'll get to later. We often leave our home and our family as we move out to do something on our own. Now, if we decide to go to university, I think we delay a lot of the big changes. In my case, I moved out to a different city, to Berlin, to go to university, and that was a big change. But I also still felt pretty guarded and guided by the school. There was a clear curriculum to follow, and I was on the same path as so many other students, so I didn't feel lost. This might be different if you go to university and feel like you don't fit in with the other students, or you realize that you have no interest in your major but don't know what to do instead. I imagine this can make you feel lost, but I think a lot of us feel like university is kind of an extension of high school and like it provides us with that same familiar structure. So whenever we finally graduate, whether that last graduation is in high school or in university, it's the first time we don't have the structure and direction of the school telling us what to do. It's our first time on our own, and all of that makes for a pretty strong pillar of doom, if you ask me. The second pillar I'm gonna call, okay, but how do I feel like an adult? We have a pretty clear idea of what being an adult should look like on the outside, but not how to get there mentally and emotionally. There are these outer markers that signal adulthood to us. They might be a bit different depending on our culture and upbringing, but they probably include some of these: graduating, getting your first job, moving out, getting married, having children, and so on. And they might not be right for us, but at least they give us some direction, right? And I feel like it's often implied that we'll just know which of these outer achievements are the right ones for us to strive for, that everything will just fall into place, and that as soon as we look like adults on the outside, we will feel like adults on the inside. And from my experience, I can say that that's just not true. I can have graduated, have a job in my field, have my own apartment, and still feel like I've not truly become myself. This might be different for some of us, but I feel like a lot of us need some guidance on how to mentally settle into adulthood, on becoming an adult on the inside. And we don't really get that from anywhere, at least not in a systemic way. Maybe some of us get mentored or we read some books that help, but we could easily find ourselves completely on our own in this. And that's hard and makes for a pretty strong pillar of doom. The next pillar I'm gonna call, well, it's only temporary, right? Because this is a stage of our lives where we go through a lot of changes and tend not to have things figured out. It can feel like this is just a transitional stage to get us from graduating to adulting. We can feel eager to get through this in-between stage, to grow up as quickly as possible and turn the uncertainty into certainty. And we get encouraged from all sides to do so. But I think this eagerness to get somewhere else is contributing to the problem. I mean, it doesn't feel nice to be in a situation that you'd rather not be in, where you're waiting for a different time and wish that you could just skip to the good part. Like when you're at the dentist and think, I can't wait for this to be over. I would rather not experience this moment and jump to a later point in time. And sure, the dentist is hopefully a place where we spend pretty limited time, so it's not worth spending much time thinking about how to make that a more enjoyable and fulfilling experience. But to feel that way about several weeks, months, or maybe even years of our lives, that's sad. And I'm guilty of this for sure. For example, when I'm daydreaming about being 35 and having my life figured out. Pretty unrealistic, I know. Or on a smaller time scale, when I decided to quit my previous job. After handing in my resignation, I still had to make it through the notice period of 3 months before I could actually leave. That time was hard, and if someone had offered me a skip button to skip over it, I might just have taken it. But I now wish I had tried to make the best of that time and not only seen it as a waiting period to get where I want to go. The same goes for the entire period of uncertainty in our 20s and 30s. It's not just in between two things. It's its own stage. And I want to make a whole video on this topic of why I feel that this time of uncertainty is highly underrated and underappreciated, and on trying to find ways to reframe it and make the best of it. But to carve the last grooves into this pillar, you know how when someone is fighting you, you're not supposed to fight against their movement, but instead you want to go with their movement and use their momentum against them. When we fight against uncertainty, I think it works the same way. We either try to overcome it with brute force and rush our way to proper adulthood, which we're inclined and encouraged to do, or we accept and redirect that force to overcome it. But this is difficult to do, and it requires proper technique and training, which is why this pillar is so strongly working against us. Pillar number 4 I'll call what's so great about the future anyway. One thing that keeps us feeling stuck in this time of our lives is that the future doesn't seem all that appealing. This seems kind of opposite to the previous pillar of rushing to grow up. But unfortunately, they don't cancel each other out. They work together to give us an even harder time. Now, what makes the future so unappealing? Well, it seems to come with a lot of downgrades. Like, you get a lot of new responsibilities with seemingly not that much benefit, like having to manage your own finances, feed yourself, run your household, make dentist appointments. Like, it's a lot. Another downgrade is the lifestyle. If you're getting a job, you'll probably have to work for a lot more hours and get way less vacation than as a student. Especially if you don't enjoy your first job, that seems like a pretty bad deal. And then finally, where are the inspiring role models? At least for me, most of the successful people I come across in my work life did not make me go, damn, that's so cool and exciting and intriguing. I can't wait to grow up more and progress in life and in my career. Yeah, no. Both because I don't want their job, not even a little bit, and because I know their career path is just not realistic for me. For some reason, I keep meeting people who have been at the same company for 15, 20, maybe even 25 years, or if not at the same company, at least in the same profession. I don't see this happening for me, at least not in this economy. But even at the startups where I've worked, where obviously no one had been more than a couple of years, I just kept thinking, where's the meaning at? How are you just living to work and okay with it? And why are all those jobs so hostile to humanity? Like, why do they make it so difficult to sleep enough, eat healthy, and work out, and so hard to focus? Gosh, I just want some calm to focus. What you find unappealing is of course personal, but I think it's a common experience to look around and think, I don't want the lives of any of the people that are further along on this path. Where did I take the wrong turn? Now, after some intense searching, I actually found some really inspiring role models for myself, but it still doesn't mean I know how to get there, because those people did not start out where I'm starting out, and it's difficult to find those role models and to even recognize who makes a good role model for us, which brings me to the next pillar. How would I know what I want? As a young adult, you're supposed to figure out what you want to do with your life. Or are you? Because a lot of people seem to have opinions on what we should be doing with our lives. We have our parents or other adults in our lives who most definitely have opinions and expectations, and they might have told them to us throughout our entire childhood so much that we have internalized them, and they might not even be real. Because when was the last time you verified these expectations and asked if they're still the latest update? There's a chance that you're running around with the outdated expectations of other people. Or what can also happen, that you subconsciously make up new expectations and assign them to those people. Or that you intensify their expectations in your head. So then you're running around with these outdated, blown out of proportion, fake, made up expectations of other people. Then of course there are your friends and your classmates, and you're all trying to figure this out at the same time and checking what the others are doing, and it's easy to just copy one of them, because if they really want that, then yeah, of course you also really want that for yourself. And yeah, it's a total coincidence that they want the same thing. Was my idea. And then there's also new wise people coming into our lives, like our university professors or the manager at our first job or more senior colleagues, and a lot of them also have opinions, and you're looking for guidance, right? So it's really nice of them to help you, and don't get me wrong, it can be nice of them and they probably mean well, but we're also at a stage of our lives where we probably don't yet have the experience and the confidence to tell whether or not they are right. They might be very wrong about what's best for us, even if they mean well. What worked for them doesn't necessarily work for you, especially if, which I'm realizing now happened so many times, especially if we don't want to get where they are. Why should we then take their advice? Well, because we're insecure and don't have the experience and don't know what we want. So like, it makes sense that we listen to them, but maybe we shouldn't. So all of this makes it really difficult to differentiate between what other people want, what we think we should want, and what we actually really want, which we might not be sure this actually even exists, what we want. Is there something we actually want? Because if there was, wouldn't we know? Which I'm really sorry, I don't have the answer to this yet, but I'm going to explore this in future videos, I promise. Okay, so the sixth and final pillar I'm going to call, if there's a path, it's someone else's, which is a quote from the mythologist Joseph Campbell. According to this, if there is a path, it's someone else's. In other words, we've reached the end of the blueprint. Maybe we were able to extend the blueprint by going to the university and then picking a super logical entry-level job right out of university. But eventually there comes a point where we realize we have to make our own decisions. And this moment likely happens in our 20s and 30s. Or it happens whenever we wake up and realize that we've been following someone else's path. So in a way, we're lucky if this happens to us earlier in life, because we have the rest of our lives to create our new own path. It's still scary, but for me it helps to realize that it's normal and inevitable. It's just not possible to get complete direction and guidance forever, because we're literally creating something new. We're creating our own paths. What? Like I have to make my own decisions? Like forever? Yeah, I know. Looks like the final pillar of doom to me. You have a lot of reasons to feel lost, but that doesn't mean we can't do anything about it. We can and we will. I have a ton of videos planned to get through this together. Until then, I'm gonna leave you with this video where I go into my own quarter life crisis, at least up until now, which hopefully you'll also find yourself in and feel less alone. Or well, hopefully not, I guess. We're in this together, okay?